Everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today wanted to just briefly give you an option as far as upgrading your diode laser experience to a honeycomb panel. Now, I know a lot of people look at these and think they're kind of expensive, and they do have a bit of a cost, and some companies do ask for a pretty premium on theirs. There are a few things I always look for in a honeycomb panel, and the primary one is that it's going to have as much of a steel frame and actual steel webbing as much as possible. Sometimes you'll find some that are made out of more aluminum, and while that is lightweight and less expensive, it also is a lot more flexible and you lose the magnetic properties of the board. So a little while ago, I had an offer come into my email saying, would you like to check out our honeycomb panel? And I looked them up, and they are a seller on Amazon called Dadywheels, D-A-D-Y wheels. And I looked at the specs, and this looked to be matching the dimensions of some of the more popular X brands that you might be out there looking at. And I thought, hey, yeah, let's take a look at it, because I liked their price point. This is definitely coming in under $70 and sometimes cheaper if you catch it on sale with a coupon. So I've got the box here. We're going to crack it open, take a look at it, and we'll throw a laser on there as well. Maybe see if it fits in the enclosure, and I'll give you my thoughts on it as we go through. So let's open this box and get right to it. So the basic honeycomb comes itself in one of two different versions. There's a 400mm square and a 500mm square. It also includes 6 nice 1/2-inch rare earth magnets. You get 4 adhesive pads to add to the bottom if you so desire, 1 cleaning brush, and then an aluminum sheet to fit underneath the honeycomb panel to protect your work surface. One thing that can help a lot with these honeycombs, as I mentioned earlier, is elevating them, and it doesn't need to be anything expensive or fancy. You can just use some plywood blocks. So these are basically about 1-inch square, and these are about 3/8 an inch thick, 3/8 1/2-inch. That's really all you need, as long as you can get some airflow underneath there. And so all I've done is just added them into the 4 corners, and if you feel that you need some extra support, you can add more all around the rails, because they don't actually interfere with the laser at that point. You just want to make sure it's well supported, and then place your honeycomb up, and that will then allow the air to go underneath here. So you want to ensure that airflow. So if you have this in an enclosure and you have your exhaust vent back in one of the corners, maybe make sure that you've got an open inlet on the opposite end. Otherwise, if you're using this out in the open, then just maybe make sure you have just some positive airflow, maybe a light fan blowing across there. That'll just keep air moving. It'll pull anything out of these honeycomb weaves and keep it from staining your material. All right, so longtime viewers of my channel will probably recognize this as the enclosure that I designed around the X-Tool laser. And with that in mind, I kind of modeled the tray and everything off of their laser panel. And while that has worked well, it's been a bit of an extra expense for people wanting to build this as well. So wanted to see how this one fits in here and kind of give you some ideas on how it might work in a custom enclosure of your own. So what we've got is, I have a rail system here that the honeycomb sits on, and then it sits flush with the panel side. So the rails are here, and then I've got a gap down here below, and then our exhaust fan in the back to pull our smoke and debris out. So let's get the panel in here and see how it fits. All right. So side to side, the frame is pretty much level with the rails, and so that is a perfect fit. It allows me to use my pass-through slots without getting a lot of extra sag in there. And so if you were to place something very heavy on here, you're going to notice that there is a little bit of bending, but that's going to be true of really any honeycomb like this. They're not great at supporting a lot of weight. And so if that's an issue for you, you can always just add a little support in the center. But what this design really helps us with is that there's a lot of room for airflow. I've got the fan split between top and bottom, so it's going to be pulling from both areas and really extracting out that smoke and debris. So let's get a laser in here and check out how it might operate with it in place. So one thing that's a concern when running your laser is making sure that the material is secure. Now, a lot of material like this will lay flat and be fine without anything holding it down, but in some cases, it might be a lighter weight material, or there might be a slight bend to it, and the air assist or whatnot will want to move it. Now what I often do is I use these 3D printed pins to just push down into the honeycomb material, and then I can put it along the side if I'm trying to make a jig to put it into a frame, or I can just put this on top of the material, hold down. Now these are some that I've printed out for my others, but this has a finer honeycomb, so this won't work. And so what I've done in the past is I've just laser cut out these kind of little J hooks that go in upside down and hold down on it. And again, these are a little too wide, but I'm going to go ahead and cut some out using this laser. I've just measured the honeycomb size. It's about an 8mm honeycomb weave, so that's what I have sized this part to, and we'll cut them out. But what I want to show you also is the reason we use the honeycomb to help improve the back side of the finish. So when your material is normally sitting on something flat, such as this piece of metal, and the laser cuts through, there's going to be a lot of debris, there's smoke, there's moisture, that whatnot that comes through, and that vapor and that smoke will get trapped under here, and it'll actually cause staining. So what I want to do is actually I'm going to set this down in here, and we'll set up the file and run one first with this, and I will show you just how much staining will happen with that. Okay, so we ran that through, we had that on the back, and here you can see just the outside edge, how much of staining there is. But then if I pull this panel out, you can actually see, I mean, it's literally kind of sticky from the residue, and this backside is just all sorts of stained there, and that's all the residue and vapor and whatnot left on the metal. Now this will clean off of here just fine with a little bit of alcohol or another cleaner, but cleaning it off your parts gets really tricky. So that's why we run it on the honeycomb. So let's do it on there real quick. I'll show you the difference. Okay, so now we'll lift this up, and this is the back side of those two. And you can see it's so much cleaner. There's really not any marks. There's maybe just a tiny flash mark down in that corner, and that's where it was resting on the honeycomb. But all that vapor and smoke and debris went right through, and I'll get a closer up shot of this, but you'll see there's just a little bit of marking on the honeycomb, but let that all flow through, and instead of marking our material, it went through the honeycomb. All right, so we cut those out, and so I'll show you how they work. Now, they will go down into the honeycomb, and so you see that this piece kind of it's a little bit warped. So you just push them into these slots, and you twist them around, and then it'll slide down and put some pressure on. You could put one on the other end, but they also provide these rare earth magnets with this, and that's where you could actually just set these in the corners as well, and that's going to hold it just the same. You just want to make sure that whichever one you're using, that it's not going to interfere with the laser head, that it will clear that or be out of the path. So both work great. I'm really happy to see them provide some real rare earth magnets that actually have some holding power on these. Some of them provide some real basic magnets that I don't think do as good a job. So big bonus on this one for a budget honeycomb. All right, so the last thing I will leave you with about the honeycomb is you do want to do some regular maintenance on it, and that will be cleaning it. So as you saw with the metal sheet, this kind of vaporized material and such that leaves a bit of a residue on your honeycomb and such, which is good because it's not getting on your material. This is actually fairly easy to clean off, especially on flat surfaces like this, but even in the honeycomb in here, it's not terrible to clean off. You want to use a degreaser. Now you can use oven cleaner or such, or if you want something a little less aggressive, I like using this LA's Totally Awesome cleaner. You can get it at a lot of stores around very inexpensively. So you just spray that down, let it soak real briefly, and then it should, for the most part, just wipe off. So as you see there, it's basically clean. And so what you would do on the honeycomb is you would spray it down. I would let it sit for a while, let it soak through that, and then just kind of spray it off. Maybe if it's nice outside, you can just take it outside with a garden hose, spray it off, or rinse it off in maybe a mop sink or something. Then the important thing is to make sure it dries. You want to make sure that this doesn't rust up either, because it is steel. And so leave it out in the sun, maybe put a fan on it or even a blow dryer, just to make sure that that water fully evaporates, doesn't sit there and let that steel oxidize. So, all right, well, that is going to wrap it up for this one. That is some quick information on this Dadywheels honeycomb bed. At the time of this recording is running about $68 on Amazon. There may be some coupons as well to bring that down a little bit lower, but at well over less than half of what some of the equivalents are, I think this is a really good deal. It's a steel frame, steel webbing honeycomb, and those are the things I look for when I look for these. And in my enclosure, it works really well. I think it would work well in a regular enclosure. Just leave it elevated just a bit. So I'll have links down below where you can check this out and get yours too, as well as some other links to items that I find useful in my shop. So I appreciate you using them. Some of them will be affiliate links. I get a little kickback, but that's at no extra cost to you. And as always, no pressure. So I hope you found this video informational, and if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down below. If you thought it was helpful, hit that like button. And if you'd like to find out more what's going on in my workshop, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really does help the channel out. If you want to catch more of what we do, my friend David from the Clack Shack and I do a Sunday night live stream at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that is where we answer questions. We talk about new products coming out. We talk about projects that we're working on, and it's just a good time to hang out with you, the viewers, answer some of your questions, and get a little more one-on-one time with us to find out what's going on in the laser world. So I'll leave a link down to that below. Check that out as well, and I hope to see you there soon. Once again, that's going to wrap it up. I appreciate you stopping by and checking this out, and I hope you can get out into your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.